Let us start with a chant. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Lord protect us all. May He nourish us. May we all accomplish great things together. May what we study today illumine our days. May there be no disharmony amongst us. Om. Peace, peace, peace. The subject this morning, which we have before us, is the one and the many. A very profound subject. When we look at the Upanishads, we come across this one question. What is that by knowing which everything is known? In the Mundaka Upanishad, we find the disciple Shaunaka approaching an ancient sage and asking this question. Kasminnu bhagavo vigyate sarvam idam vigyatam bhavati iti. Sir, what is that which, when we know that, everything here on this world, in this world, everything here becomes known. What is that by knowing which everything is known? In the Chandragya Upanishad, we find when the boy Shvetaketu returns from school, his father, seeing that the boy has become proud of learning, asks him, my boy, have you learned, have your teachers taught you that by knowing which everything is known? You see, the same question, knowing which everything is known. And of course, Shvetaketu said, no, they didn't teach us that. Probably they don't know. And could you teach me? He asks his father, could you teach me? And the commentator Shankaracharya mischievously comments there that probably the boy was afraid of being sent back to school. So he said, my teachers don't know. Maybe you can teach me. In another Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, the sage Narada, he says that I have learned everything that there is to know in all the universities of the world. He gives a list of so many subjects that he has mastered. But he says, I am in sorrow. I suffer. And his teacher says to him that you have to know that by knowing which one can go beyond beyond sorrow. There is something that which you know, if you know that, you go beyond sorrow. And in another Upanishad, you know, this statement comes, what is that by knowing which the mortal becomes immortal? Tameva viditva ati mrityumeti, knowing which we go beyond mortality. So look at this question. It's basically the same question. What is that by knowing which one can become immortal, go beyond death? What is that by knowing which we can know everything? What is that by knowing which we can overcome sorrow? So there is this question about something by knowing which, by gaining which, by realizing which, one gets infinite existence, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. This is the question of the Upanishads. So that there is this one, there is something by knowing which we can become immortal. We can know everything that there is to know. And we can overcome sorrow forever. That is the question about the one. And the many is this world around us. The world which we experience, the world which we live in, world of people and objects and living creatures and this non-living universe, and our own subjective lives of happiness and misery, hopes and expectations and frustrations, our limited lives, which are we are born, and the one thing certain in our lives is death. We seek knowledge, but our ignorance is vast, is unending. We seek joy and happiness. There's very little of pleasure and happiness which we can snatch from this world surrounded by a sea of misery, an ocean of misery. So this is the many. This is the many in which we live our lives, and the promise of religion is the one. There are only two serious questions in spiritual life. There are only two serious questions in spiritual life. I'm reminded of the existentialist philosopher Albert Camus, who began his book, Myth of Sisyphus, with a bang. He says, there is only one serious question: why should I not commit suicide? So there's only one serious question: why should one not commit suicide? And he was not joking. He said, that is a serious question. In the same vein, there are only two serious questions in spiritual life. What are these questions? One is about God. How do I realize God? How do I find Brahman or Allah or the Father in heaven or Jehovah or the Tao or Nirvana? How do I get that? That's one question. And the other question is, how do I live this life? I still have a life to live. So how do I live in this life? These are the two questions in spiritual life. The only two serious questions. And all of religion and all of spirituality is an attempt to answer these two questions. It's very interesting to note how Master Mahashaya, the author of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the second time he met Sri Ramakrishna, the first serious questions he asked. Before that, he just got introduced to Sri Ramakrishna. He tried to argue with Sri Ramakrishna. He says, for the first and last time in my life. And after he decided not to argue with him anymore, he asked questions. He asked two questions. And I'll tell you these two questions, and you'll see what a remarkable person Master Mahashaya was. He asked the two most important questions. The first question he asked was, Sir, how do I keep my mind on God? The second question he asked was, Sir, how do I live in this world? In Bengali, Ishware mon kemon kore hai. One. And second, e সংসারে কিভাবে থাকবো? You see, these are the only two questions in life. And all answers, the great masters, religious masters since the beginning of time have given all the answers. Their answers to these two questions. Bhagavad Gita, we don't know when it was said, but definitely at least 3,000-4,000 years ago. On the battlefield, where there's a dialogue between God and man, between the divine and the human. Maybe the most remarkable dialogue in all human history. And God teaches man. The divine instructs the mortal. And the essence of that teaching essence of Krishna's teaching to Arjuna is Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Think of me, of God, and fight the battle of life. Both. Think of me and fight the battle of life. More than 20 centuries afterwards, probably, in the Middle East, when the ancient Jews asked their strange new prophet, Jesus, Lord, we hear of the 10 commandments. Which of these 10 commandments are important? Which of them are the most important? Which is the most important commandment? And Jesus said not one, but two. He said, first, love the Lord thy God with all thy might and all thy heart. First. And, just when they were shutting their notebooks, okay, we got it. And, love thy neighbor. And love thy neighbor. Love God and love thy neighbor. You see, that and again. 2,000 years later, Swami Vivekananda, when he gave a formal form to the Ramakrishna order, and he had to give a motto, guiding motto to us. What did he say? Atmano mokshartham jagat hitaya cha. For your own liberation and for the welfare of the world. And for the welfare of the world. Think upon me and do your duty in life. Krishna. Love the Lord thy God and love thy neighbor. Jesus. For your own, live for your own salvation and for the welfare of the world. You see, this eternal and is there. Because they are answers to two questions. How do I get God, Brahman, Atman, Nirvana, Moksha? How do I live in this world? A question about the one and a question about the many. One and the many. The question remains, why this twofold answer? Why not just one? Why not just love God? That's it. Why one more thing? Why is it necessary to say, and love thy neighbor? Why didn't Krishna just say, meditate upon God, upon me? Why does he go on and say that, and fight the battle of life? Why and? Why does Swami Vivekananda say, for your own liberation and for the welfare of the world? Why not just for your own liberation? The devotee, the spiritual man, the seeker after liberation, will always try to focus on that, on the divinity, on realizing God. I want God. The world, well, I'm a well-wisher, but I'm not bothered about the world. And the atheist, the one who does not believe in God, will say, the one you're talking about, the one that religion speaks of, is a superstition. What proof is there of that God? What we see is this manifold world. We experience the many. So, love thy neighbor, that's great. Work for the welfare of the world, that's great. Do thy duty, that's great. But the rest of it, why that other one? Forget that. But the great masters of religion throughout humanity's history have insisted on both of them. And this and that. And that is the question that we shall deal with this morning. The question of the one and the many. Most of you, when you came here, you thought I'm going to talk about the one and I'm going to talk about the many. But I'm going to talk about and. One and the many. The subject is one and the many. Now, the most important word there is and. That's what we are going to talk about this morning. What is the relationship between the many and the one? About 800 years ago in India, the great master of dualistic Vedanta, Madhvacharya, he taught that do you feel, you who believe in God, who are devoted, do you feel that God is different and you are different? That you are different entities? I say, yes, you are right. You are different. God is the Lord and we are the servants. Thou art the master, I am thy servant. And do you feel that you and your brother, you are different? All the human beings here, billions of human beings, you are different entities. Yes, we feel we are different. You are right. You are all different entities. And do you feel that you living beings, you are different from the non-living universe, the material universe? Yes, we feel that. That's what it seems to be. I'm different from this desk. Yes, you are right. You are different. And the non-living universe, this material world, there are different entities. The desk is different from the chair and chair is different from the stage. Yes, we feel that. That's also right. And God is different from this material universe. 5 differences. He speaks about 5 differences. The difference between Brahman and Jiva, the ultimate reality, and us. It is true. We are eternally different. This is the Lord, the Master, and we are the servant. The second difference is between Jiva and Jiva. Each of us, we are different entities. The third difference he speaks about is between Jiva and Jagat, we and this material universe. And the fourth difference he asserts is between Jagat and Jagat, between the material, inside the material universe itself, there are billions of entities. They are all different from each other. And the last difference he speaks about, difference between God and this material world. Material world is a created insentient world. And the Lord is the master of all of this. So 5 differences in Sanskrit, Bhedaha. Bhedaha means difference. We always talk about Advaita, Abheda, non-difference. But the master of Dvaita Vedanta, Madhvacharya, speaks of 5 differences. Pancha Bhedaha. And this is the relationship between the one and the many. The one is the Lord and the many. All of us and this material universe, they are possessed. The Lord is God is the master of the many. The many is subservient to the one. The many belong to the one. This is knowledge. What is ignorance? to deny the existence of the one, not to believe in God. So that is the prototype of dualistic religion. All dualistic religion follows this model. They acknowledge the one. God exists. There is one Lord of the universe. And we are their servants, and this universe belongs to God. So this is the approach of dualistic Vedanta. Ramanujacharya says, wait. In deeper than all these apparent differences, there is an underlying unity. There is an underlying unity. Just like our hands are different from our feet, our belly is different from our head, they are different, but they are all part of one body. They are all parts of me, of my body. Just as body is the underlying unity of the different parts of the body, they all belong to me. They are all united in me, though they are different from each other. In the same way, Ramanujacharya, the great teacher of qualified non-dualism, Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, says that the many and the one are not different. The many and the one are not different. They appear to be different. The many all together, there is an underlying unity which is the one. The differences of the many are apparent, but they are reconciled in an underlying unity of God, of one. He says, all jivas, individual beings, are all parts of Brahman. Amsha. Amsha means part. We are all parts, he'd say Vishnu. We are all parts of Brahman, of Vishnu. Do come in. You can come and sit here. There are chairs here. Come in. They are all parts of Brahman. And this insentient universe of rocks and... Come on in. The universe of rocks and mountains and oceans and planets and atoms, all of these are also parts of that one underlying divinity. So that divinity, Brahman, is not different from the many. The one is not different from the many. Ramanujacharya says, Chid Achit Vishishta Brahma, the ultimate reality qualified by the conscious sentient beings and the insentient universe. The sentient and insentient beings are components, parts of that ultimate oneness which is Brahman. And hence the name Vishishtadvaita. Vishishta means qualified. So Brahman qualified by all sentient beings like us and qualified by the insentient universe. All of these are parts of one divinity. So underlying our apparent differences, there is a deeper oneness. This is the great doctrine of Apritak Siddhi. Apritak Siddhi. The Vishishtadvaita doctrine of Apritak Siddhi. That there is no independent existence of all things. They all are, they are all parts of one divinity. And that total divinity is called God. So the relationship between the one and the many, they are not different. Many are parts of the one. You go further, deeper. We come to Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual Vedanta, which holds that the many are not different from the one. The many are not parts of the one. The many are an appearance, the one alone is reality. The many are an appearance, the one alone is reality. Brahman alone exists. In what sense? When gold is made into a ring, when that ring is melted and made into a necklace is melted and made into a bracelet, there is no such thing as a ring, necklace and a bracelet apart from the gold. It is the gold alone which continues through the ring and the necklace and the bracelet. It is not that there is a necklace and there is a bracelet and there is a ring and there is gold. No. It is not even that the ring and the necklace and the bracelets are parts of gold. They are not parts of gold. They are not parts of gold. It is the gold alone which is real. And the necklace and the ring and the bracelet are names and forms into which the gold is shaped by a skillful jeweler, and we call them by these names and use them differently. They look different, they are called differently and used differently, but the reality is one and the reality is gold. In the same way, Brahman alone is real. Think about it epistemologically. Epistemology is that branch of philosophy which speaks about knowledge. How do we know? Look at it this way. Follow this carefully. All the things that you see in this room, so many people, benches and the shrine here and the light and the walls and the ceiling and the carpet, there are hundreds of things to see here. But all of them are nothing but light reflected of objects which comes to your eyes. And in the eyes, all of these hundreds of forms are united into one thing called vision. We see. The one organ of vision unites in itself the hundreds and thousands of things that we see throughout the day and throughout our lives. The one ear, so much of music that we hear, so much of noise that we hear, so much of people talking, all the things that we hear, all of them, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of different kinds of sounds that we hear throughout our lives, are all united into oneness by that one organ called the ear. And so with smell, so with taste, so with touch. Each sense organ by itself unites a multiplicity into oneness. And all the sense inputs, if you see something, you hear something, you smell something, taste something, all of that we understand through our minds, isn't it? We experience in our minds. So when it comes to the mind, whether it's something that you see, whether it's something that you hear, something that you taste or touch, when it comes to the mind, it all becomes thought. It all becomes thought. It all becomes thought. It's only when it becomes thought that we can think about it, we can know it in our minds. And the thought itself is not sufficient. The hundreds of thousands of thoughts, somebody said that each day we have 56,000 discrete thoughts. They're not different from each other. Maybe same thoughts are repeated, but 56,000 thoughts in our waking day, in one day. So all these tens of thousands of thoughts and hundreds of thousands of thoughts and millions of thoughts throughout our lifetime, all of them are experienced by us only when it's lit up by the one consciousness. It's only when we are aware of it that we know that we are thinking. So all the multiplicity of thoughts becomes one in consciousness. Imagine the whole world which we experience through 5 senses. Billions of entities reduced to 5 senses. The 5 senses with the thousands of inputs reduced to one thing called thought. And millions of thoughts reduced to one thing called consciousness. Without consciousness, we cannot be aware of any kind of thought. Not much less any kind of perception, and much less the external world. So everything ultimately is thought and consciousness. Ultimately everything is reduced to the level of consciousness. From the epistemological point of view, Advaita Vedanta shows it is in consciousness alone that everything shines. And from another point of view, they will show that existence alone is common to all things that exist. Bliss alone is common to all things that we enjoy in the world. So this existence, consciousness, bliss, not 3 things, but one thing itself. This is what is appearing, this is what is there in every experience of ourselves. In every experience of ourselves, all that is existence, is consciousness and bliss. The variety is accounted for by name and form. And name and form have no existence of their own, no consciousness of their own, no bliss of their own. So this existence, consciousness, bliss, where is this? If we admit this oneness, where is this oneness? Advaita Vedanta tells us, Tat Tvam Asi. That thou art. You are that existence, consciousness, bliss. So this is the remarkable conclusion in the Chandragya Upanishad. When the father teaches his son Shvetaketu, he comes to the conclusion when he talks about one existence out of which everything has come, and other than which nothing has existence. It's just like the waves in the ocean, the Pacific Ocean there, thousands and thousands of waves rising up, melting back into the ocean daily. But all of them have no existence apart from the water in them. Imagine a wave out of which you suck all the water out of it. How much of the wave is left? Nothing. A little vague outline. Nothing will be left. It is water alone which appears as the waves. In the same way, it is this existence which appears as the entire universe with the help of Maya, names and forms, variety of names and forms. So the father is explaining this to the son, Shvetaketu, that smart little boy. And after listening to all this, Shvetaketu's attitude must have been, so, it's just philosophy, just theory. And then the father says dramatically, Tat Tvamasi Shvetaketu, that pure existence, it's not philosophy, it's not abstraction, it is what you are. Now nobody can ignore that. Because the most important thing to ourselves, to myself, is I myself. The big, vertical I, not this one. That's the most important thing to ourselves, I myself. And Shvetaketu's father tells him, this pure existence which I was talking about, it's no mere philosophy. It is not speculation. It is what you are. Tat Tvamasi Shvetaketu. And Shvetaketu says, it's not very clear. Could you tell me again? And the father repeats with new examples. And then again he repeats the same thing with new examples. Every time he explains it, he comes to the conclusion, Tat Tvam Asi Shvetaketu. That thou art, O Shvetaketu. Consider what a tremendous statement that is. That thou art. You are Brahman. We have all heard this. You've been coming to the Vedanta Society, so we've been hearing throughout our lives that there is one ultimate reality and we are that reality. I am God. Sounds nice. And maybe we come to hear that again and again, that you are God. Nice to be told that once in a while, that you are God. We don't feel God-like at all, but it's nice to hear that you are God. But there is another side to this statement which people do not, it's there. People do not bother to reflect upon that. I'll bring that out just now. This statement is even more explosive than we think it is. What could be more explosive than telling me that I am God or telling you that you are God? There's something even more explosive. Think about this. Tat Tvam Asi. That. Tat means that. That means God. Existence. Pure existence. Tvam means you, the individual. You are that existence out of which the universe has emerged, in which the universe exists, into which the universe disappears. In what sense? Just as if you tell a little wave, you are water. There's nothing in you except water. The top of you is water, the middle of you is water, inside you is water, outside. All of it is water only. And everything else that you see in this ocean is water. Even the biggest wave is nothing but water. Even the little bit of foam is nothing but water. And you are that water. Tat Tvam Asi. That's what it means. In that sense, we are existence. But this is not all that it means. You are God. And Tat Tvam Asi also means Tvam Tat Asi. The opposite. God is you. What does that mean? It means something even more remarkable than you are God. When you say you are God or I am God, what it means is I am not the body. Definitely this limited body is not God. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am the consciousness, which is the witness, existence, consciousness, bliss, which is the witness and the support of this body, mind. Mano buddhi hankara chittani naham, Shankaracharya sings. I am not the mind. I am not the ego. I am not memory. I am not the intellect. I am existence, consciousness, bliss, Shiva. I am Shiva. That's what he sings. The other way around. What is Shiva? What is God? What is Jehovah? What is Brahman? What is Vishnu, Kali? You. Just as when I say, I am God, you are God, it means that you are not the body and not the mind. When I say the opposite, God is you, it means apart from you, the real you. Apart from that, there is no Vishnu. There is no Shiva. Apart from you, there is no Shiva, no Durga, no Kali, no Vishnu, no Allah, no Brahman, no Jehovah, nothing. Apart from the real you. There is nothing more apart from that which you have to look for when you are looking for God. Tat Tvamasi, Tvam Tatasi. Thou art that. And that is thou. That is thou. Works both ways. I am God means I am not the body, not the mind, not the senses. And therefore, I am not the old age of the body, doesn't affect me, it affects the body. I am not the sorrow, the misery or the frustration of the mind, it affects the mind. I am not the petty projects and goals of the mind, they belong to the mind. I am not those. And the reverse. I am existence, consciousness, bliss. I am God. The river says, there is no God apart from this existence, consciousness, bliss. There is no God apart from you. Think about it this way. Put both of them together. I am God and God is I. This is the tremendous import of Advaita Vedanta. Shankaracharya sums up Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, by saying, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmaivanapara. That ultimate reality, existence, consciousness, bliss, is the only reality. The world is false. The manifold world is false. And what about me? You're leaving me out. Which side? You are Brahman, don't worry. You are that existence, consciousness, bliss. So we're a little worried. Am I real or am I false? Brahman is real, the world is false. And what about me? You are real. You are Brahman. You are Brahman and nothing else. So in terms of our question, one and the many, Shankaracharya has just said, the one alone is real, the many is false, and you are that one. That is Shankaracharya's position. So 3 positions. You're asking the question about the and. What is the relationship between one and the many? The dualist said, the one and the many are different. And the one is the Lord, the Master, the possessor, and the many are the servants, are the possessions of the Lord. We belong to the Lord. Then qualified non-dualist Ramanujacharya said, the one is the whole, the many are the parts. We all constitute the one divinity, which is Brahman. Shankaracharya came and said, the one alone is real, the many are false. He denies any kind of independent existence to the many. The one alone is real, the many are false. How do you reconcile? We have got 3 answers to the question, why this and? What is the relationship between the one and the many? Hanuman, when he was asked this question by Rama, what do you think of me? The Rama incarnation of God asks Hanuman, and Hanuman, the wisest among all beings, replies, Thou art the Lord, I am thy servant. Deha buddhya dasoham. From the point of view of this Hanuman body, you are Ramachandra, I am thy servant. Deha buddhya Deha buddhya dasoham. So, dualism, he says, wait. Jiva buddhya twadangshaka. As this conscious being dwelling within this body, I am a part of thee. Thou art the whole, I am thy part. Jiva buddhya twadangshaka. As a jiva, I am part of thee. Oh, qualified non-dualism. Wait. Atma buddhya tvamevaham. As existence, consciousness, bliss, as pure consciousness, pure existence, which I am, you and I are the same thing. Oh, qualified non-dualism, Advaita. So which one would you pick? Hanuman says, Iti me nishchita buddhi. This is my conviction. My conviction is, thou art the Lord, I am thy servant. Thou art the entirety, the whole of which, the fire of which I am a spark, the ocean of which I am a wave. And thou and I are one and the same thing. There is no thou, there is no I, there is only existence, there is only consciousness, there is only bliss. Yesterday we had a very beautiful song sung by this young lady who sang, There is only light. We had a kirtan here. There is only light. Light is consciousness, light is bliss, light is existence. There is only light. Whatever we experience, light is only that which is there. So, that is Hanuman's answer. We wonder what would Swami Vivekananda have answered if he was asked this. And we are fortunate because he was asked this. He was asked this. Some enterprising some reporter with a philosophical bent of mind, I think it was a reporter or somebody, it's there in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, discussion. Somebody asked him, Swami, doesn't Orthodox Hinduism say one alone is the real and the many are false? And didn't Buddha teach there is no one permanent reality and the many are in flux and continuously changing? That's all that there is. So what do you say? Swami Vivekananda said, yes, what you are saying is right. But what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and I have come to show, is that the one, wait for it, the one and the many are the same reality, experienced at different stages of spiritual evolution in different ways, by different aspirants in different moods. One and the many are the same thing. They are not two different things. And they are experienced in different ways. The one is the Lord, I am the servant, in one way. From another perspective, the one is the whole of which we are parts, the many are parts. From another perspective, the one alone is real, there is no many. And all of it is correct, because they are experienced by spiritual aspirants, sadhakas, at different stages of spiritual evolution, in different moods of spiritual evolution. That was his point. And this is important. Sister Nivedita, in her wonderful introduction to the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, in the introduction, she says, whatever the Swami taught us, she calls him the master. So whatever the master taught us, all of that was already there. Even if Swami Vivekananda had not been born, the truths of the Upanishads, truths of the Gita, in fact, in a wider context, the truths of all religions would still exist. They're still there. Maybe it wouldn't have been stated with such power and freshness and vigor as Swamiji did, but it would still be there. They did not originate with Swami Vivekananda. But then she writes, but what is original to our master? What is original to our master? What is his crowning? She uses the word, the crowning achievement of Swami Vivekananda, she says, is the doctrine of the one and the many being the same reality. The one and the many being the same reality, experienced in different ways by different aspirants at different stages of the spiritual evolution. Why is this so important? Sister Nivedita elaborates. Why is it important? She says, if one and the many be the same reality, then henceforth no division between the sacred and the secular. She says, in that case, to labor is as holy as to pray. To pray and meditate and to work in the field, they can be, with this proper spiritual attitude, of course, they can be as holy. There's no need to divide them. This is secular work and that is spiritual. She says that to hold something and to develop something, to nourish something, is as stern a trust as to quit and renounce and become a monk. Both can be equally spiritual, can be, if we have the right attitude. She says, in fact, Swami Vivekananda told me, that is Sister Nivedita, he said, the goal, ultimate goal of God realization, she says, he told me, it can be reached through religion, it can be reached through science, it can be reached through art and music. But he added, he told Sister Nivedita writes, he added, this can be understood only on the basis of Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. You need the basis of non-duality to understand how art and science and religion can all lead to the same goal. Not necessarily that they will lead to the same goal. They may not. It's only when one is a spiritual seeker that it may lead to the same goal. So the one and the many are the same reality. The secret is this. The ultimate reality, Brahman, is both transcendent and immanent. Swami Vivekananda says, the Hindu worships a transcendent, immanent God. What does it mean? What do these two words mean? Transcendent means that which is beyond this universe, beyond this material universe, beyond sense perception, beyond our thoughts, beyond expression in language, the ineffable, the transcendent. And every religion says that there is a God, or some religions do not talk expressly about God, Buddhism for example, or Jainism. So they talk about a transcendent state to be attained called nirvana, enlightenment, nirvana. So there is some belief in the transcendent. In fact, Freud, a die-hard atheist, but he gave a beautiful definition of religion. He said the common feature of all religions is a belief in the transcendent. Materialism, reductionism, science, they are not religion, because they believe in that whatever we have in this universe just now is all that there is. There's nothing transcendent here. And religion believes in something transcendent. There is something, call it God or Brahman or whatever, or Nirvana, which transcends this material universe. That's one point. Now, what is the relationship of the transcendent to this universe? So most religions would say that God is the creator of this universe. Lord has created this universe, sustains this universe. Creator and created relationship. Master and possession. Like the king. Lord is our king. We are the subjects. That's one kind of approach to the transcendent and this. But Advaita Vedanta says that transcendent is appearing as this universe. It is not that there are two things. It is that reality appearing as this. It is not that there is, when we mistake a rope for a snake, the classic Advaitic example. It is not that there is a rope and there is a snake. Not that there is a snake and inside the snake there is a rope. Or that there is a rope and the snake is sitting on top of that. There are funny stories about Advaita Vedanta. So this person who went to an ashram in India, and of course all the monks were discussing non-dual Vedanta. So when this person returned to his village, they asked him, what do the Swamis talk about in their ashram? And this person replied, simple villager, he says, well, they have a very big problem with snakes in their ashram. Every day, they talk about a snake which has covered up the rope somehow, and how they drive it away, and next day the snake is back again. It's not entirely relevant, but it reminds me of something funny that actually happened. This is just a story, but actually it happened a few years ago. I was in Calcutta, and the Asiatic Society had conducted a workshop on medieval Indian logic, the school of neologic. It's very convoluted, very sophisticated, and wonderful in a way. It's if you enjoy that sort of thing. So I was part of that workshop. I was learning, and the old Pandit who was teaching us. So they were mostly Sanskrit scholars, teachers from philosophy departments from different universities across India who had come. And I was there. And the subject of discussion was, the whole thing was 15-day workshop, 5 hours a day, and there was only one thing we discussed. What was that? Nothing. Absence. There's something called abhava. Abhava means nothing, absence. It's not there. So that's what is being discussed so hotly. And just like in Vedanta, we talk about the snake and the rope, the example which we use. The Pandit would come every day, and then he would write in the blackboard, he would write, Bhutale ghato nasti. On the ground there is no pot. There's no pot on the table. And that was the sentence we were trying to understand using Indian logic, neologic, the school of Navya Nyaya. We're trying to understand that, and we worked at it 5 hours a day for 15 days, and no, we did not come to any conclusion. But what happened was, after the first day and second day, when we would sit and go through the class, and there was this old man who, from the Asiatic Society who had been deputed to take care, to dust the benches and to clear the blackboard and switch on the fan and everything, and after the class to switch everything off. Caretaker. He would stand at the back and watch us. And after the class, after second or third day, he came to me a little diffidently, and he said, because I was a Swami, he felt he could approach me. Others were all big professors, unapproachable. So he came to me and said, Sir, Maharaj, Swami, if you really need a pot, should I go and buy one? He says, it's his duty to take care of us. And he says, all these people want is a pot. And every day they complain there is no pot. I could get one for you. It's available. I can put it on the table. Swami Vivekananda says, this is Practical Vedanta lecture number 3. 2,500 years ago, when the Buddhism arose, a great challenge to the dualistic Hindu religion of that time. You Hindus, you speak about an eternal God, Ishvara, Brahman. You speak about an eternal soul. Where is it? All that we experience in the world is a world of a changing world. We experience changing bodies. We experience continuous changes in the mind. We experience the body and the mind and the external world. Where is your precious God? And the soul? You say apart from the body and mind there is a soul. Where? Neither is it seen, nor touched, nor smelt, nor even experienced. And it won't do to say that it is beyond thought and language. And I can say that there is an invisible teacup also. It's beyond thought and language. Huh? Bertrand Russell said, I don't want to believe in God. I would as much believe in God as believe in an orbiting teacup. You know, a teacup in orbit, or a flying teacup around. There's as much proof for that. How do you reconcile this? And the Hindu logicians, they were up and trying to defend God, existence of God. So, 1,000 years of dialectics, from around 100 AD when Nagarjuna came up, till 1000 AD when the Buddhists finally left India and Buddhism disappeared from India. So it led to a flourishing of philosophy. Attacks by the Buddhists, counter-attacks by the Hindus, replies to the counter-attacks by the Buddhists, all non-violent, all very philosophical. But it led to a flowering of philosophy, So the Hindus were, the Nayayikas, Hindu logicians, were trying to defend God. The great Hindu logician Udayanacharya, once he goes to Jagannath Temple in Puri, and at that time the temple door was closed because offerings were going on in the temple. So the great logician, in a kind of spiritual sullenness, he composed a verse, the meaning of which is, O Lord, now in your pride you shut your doors and turn your face away from me, thy devotee. You're turning your face away from me. But when the Buddhists come, you run to me for protection. When the Buddhists come to prove that you do not exist, it's I who will protect you. Don't forget that. So Swami Vivekananda says, what is the solution? And he says the solution lies in Advaita Vedanta. He says, what it means is, not that the one and the many, not that the body and the mind and the soul, the world and God are two different entities. It is the same reality which in the state of ignorance is experienced as an individual and as the world. Subject and object. After enlightenment, only that reality is there. Before enlightenment, in ignorance, we think it is a snake. We don't experience the snake and the rope together. You see it as a snake, the moment the enlightenment comes, oh, it is a rope. The snake has gone. The snake has gone. When you see the snake, you don't see the rope. When you see the rope, you don't see the snake. But one thing I want us to be careful. In the case of the snake and the rope example, the snake vanishes after when you recognize it as a rope. In the case of Brahman and this universe, it's not that the form of the universe will vanish. The eyes will continue to see things, ears will continue to hear things, and the tongue will continue to taste. But in every experience, one realizes Brahman. One realizes that it alone is Brahman. All the manifold will still be experienced, but now the enlightened soul will experience the manifold as a manifestation of the one. The many become a manifestation of the one. The one indwells, is immanent in the many. It's not just transcendent, it appears as the many. The Kena Upanishad says, Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate. When in every experience you experience God, the mortal becomes immortal. When in every experience, not only in meditation, not only in prayer, not only in Vedanta class, but in every experience, when you are eating, sitting, walking, talking, quarreling, you experience God. Everywhere. So that is the immanence of the divine. The divine in Hinduism is transcendent, immanent. It is the same reality. And therefore we have the answer to our question. Why the and? Why the and? Why not only the one? Why not only the many? Why one and the many? One and the many, because we, in our ignorance, we think that there is a God and there is a world. And we have a tendency either to ignore God and concentrate on the world, or to try to catch hold of God and ignore the world. And both are signs of ignorance. It is like a person who is told, here are ornaments, and the reality is gold. So the real thing is gold. Now what this person does is, he throws all the ornaments away and starts searching for gold. He'll never find gold. Never find gold. Swami Vivekananda says, he who runs away from the world to meditate and die in a Himalayan cave in searching for enlightenment, he has missed the way. He who plunges headlong into the world, into the vanities of the world, he too has missed the way. This world in itself, without God, without the divinity, without Brahman, this world of experience in itself, as the author of Imitation of Christ says, he's quoting the Bible, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It is empty. It is ashes. Then what is the way? What is the way? If running away from the world is missing the way, if just taking the world as it is, that's also missing the way, then what is the way? Swami Vivekananda says, the way is to defy the world, to find God in experience. Which experience? Every experience. Every experience. The example I like giving is, everything that we see here, the proof of that is, how do I know? How do you know that the Swami was here? I saw him. How do you know that the shrine is here? I saw it. How do you know that you were in the Vedanta Society? I saw it. So look at the language you use. You say that the proof of something is because you see it. The proof of something is because we see it. Now what is the proof that you have got eyes? What is the proof that you have got eyes? Do you see your own eyes? Yeah, I see it in the mirror. No, you don't. You see a reflection of your eyes. You do not see your own eyes. Then how do you know that you have got eyes? You say, no, my friend tells me that I've got eyes. No Vedanta for you. I know that I've got eyes because I can see you. That itself is a proof that not only you are here, it's also a proof that my eyes are here. Though I do not see my eyes. Now my question is, seeing you is a proof that you are here. Seeing this table is a proof that there is a table. Seeing what is a proof that my eyes are here? Seeing what is a proof that I've got eyes? Seeing anything, yeah. Seeing anything. Anything that you see is a proof that you have got eyes. Otherwise you won't be able to see. Similarly, any experience, according to Advaita Vedanta, any experience is a proof that you are existence, consciousness, bliss. Any experience. You don't need any particular experience. In the beginning, it might be good to have a dualistic experience, a vision of God. In the beginning, it might be good to have, sit in meditation and get a samadhi or a couple of samadhis maybe. But ultimately, God must be there with eyes closed and eyes open. Sri Ramakrishna says, when my eyes are closed, the Lord is there, my eyes are open, Lord is not there. What kind of a Lord is he? The same reality is experienced in all experiences because it is not only transcendent, it is also immanent. And therefore we have one and the many. Because if you leave out one, you are ignoring the immanent. If you leave out the many, you are ignoring the immanent nature of the ultimate reality. If you forget the one, you are ignoring the transcendent nature of the ultimate reality. And that is what Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda teach. When Sri Ramakrishna says, Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva, serve all beings in the knowledge that they are Shiva. So many people heard it. Swami Vivekananda said, today I have heard a tremendous thing. If the Lord wills, I shall spread this message all over the world. Look at how the transcendence and the immanence are in one statement. Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva. Service to all living beings is worship of God. Why? Shiva Jnani, by knowing. Jnani means knowing. Not thinking that they are all God. Not imagining there is a little God sitting in all of you. All those are good imaginations. But knowing them to be. You know it. The moment you see. The moment you see this desk, it's like, what is this? You say, Swami, it's a lectern. What is this? Is this, the Swami, it's wood. Correct. You have a wood drishti and a lectern drishti, a podium drishti. It's the same thing. It can be seen as a table and it can be seen as the substance itself as wood. When we touch it, we say, touch wood. So, this world itself, we see only the names and forms now. The enlightened know that it is Brahman. So, in every experience, they recognize us. They deal with the world as we deal with the world, but at the same time they are aware of the existence, consciousness, bliss shining forth. A great soul was once asked, in every experience you are aware of Brahman? Yes. How are you aware? Guys, some kind of an abstract philosophical idea? It must be Brahman because of such arguments. 1, 2, 3, 4. He says, no. Sometimes in the sky at daytime you see the moon on the other end, faint outline of the moon, and the sun blazing forth. You can see both at the same time. Sometimes we see that. He says the world is like that for me, like the faint moon, and Brahman is like the sun blazing forth, ever blazing forth in every experience. So transcendent and the immanent, and therefore one and the many. What a beautiful philosophy of life, to see God, the transcendent within, in meditation and in prayer, and you open your eyes and you see the world around you. All of them are your beloved Lord. You worship them through service. You come to the shrine or the chapel or the church or the mosque and you pray. You'll pour your heart out in love and prayer to that one transcendent who is in your heart also. And when you sit for meditation, forget the world completely, because there's no world apart from that. And you get completely absorbed in samadhi, in that one reality. So through bhakti, through karma, through dhyana, through jnana, we are all experiencing that one transcendent, immanent reality. The one and the many are the one and the same reality, the transcendent, immanent Brahman. Om Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritam gamaya, aviravirma edhi, rudrayatte dakshinam mukham, tena mam pahi nityam. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Approach us from within our own souls. Pervade us through and through. O the awesome Rudra, protect us ever with thy compassionate face. Om, peace, peace, peace. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.